Hi everyone, John Post here. In this video, what I want to teach you how to do is how to make the four corner glazes for a biaxial grid. In this case, we're going to be making a 5x5 grid. Up on the screen, I've got a glaze called Jewel Tone. What attracted me to this recipe was how bright the colors were, and that's because this glaze has a lot of sodium in it. You'll also notice that some of these tiles have crazing going on. That's from the high sodium. So this seems like it would be a good candidate for a grid because we're going to be able to determine if adding some silica to this reduces the crazing. So looking down here at the recipe, the first thing that I always like to check is the list of ingredients to make sure that I have these available. And we do have all of these at the Sedona Arts Center if someone wanted to make this glaze. So the first step to calculate the four corners is to click on the copy button to copy this recipe into your studio. So I've done that. Now I'm going to open up a new tab and I'm going to open up my studio so that I can see the glaze, see that it's been copied there. Just takes a minute. So here's the glaze. It's called Jewel Tone. What I want to do with this glaze is I want to select this little checkbox right here, and then I'm going to come over to With Selected, and I'm going to choose Calculate, and it's going to open up Jewel Tone in its own window, and you can see where the Jewel Tone glaze is on the style diagram. It's right here. So what I need to do first is I need to make a copy of this glaze so that I can start to alter it. And the first thing that I want to do to make a corner C is I want to get rid of the silica, so I'm going to just put an X through that. I also don't want the colorant in here. I don't need it when I do the calculations, so I'm going to get rid of that. And then I have to decide how much EPK I want in this glaze. And so it's got 12 right now. Now I could get rid of all of that, which would give me a very low alumina corner C, but I don't want to do that. I want to leave some clay in it, so I'm going to make this amount 5. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set this amount to 100% to give me a 100% batch. Then I'm going to round off the numbers to 1 decimal place. And so this is going to be my corner C glaze. So I'm going to change the name of this to Jewel Tone Corner C. Then I'm going to come down to the Save button right here, click on Save. And what it does for Jewel Tone is it makes its name in bold and blue. That's how you know that you saved it to your studio. The next thing that I want to do here is let you know that the EPKLN is now at 7 because it jumped up a bit. I set it at 5. When I made the batch 100%, what happened is that the EPK was bumped up a bit. I'm fine with that. That's still a pretty low amount of kaolin, but it should help suspend the slurry. Now I want to make glaze corner A. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy C. I'm going to scroll down to my copy. I'm going to name this corner A, and I'm going to add kaolin into this glaze. So I'm going to make it 40. And you can see by making it 40 that the little dot jumps up. It's kind of right almost on the satin matte line. I'm going to try 45 to see if it pushes it into the satin matte, which it does. So I'm good with that. And so I'm going to make this 100%. I'm going to round it off. Now I've got my corner A. I'm going to come down here to save, and I'm going to save this. So I started with my original recipe. I made C. I made A. Now I want to make B. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to copy A, and I'm going to come over here and I need to add silica to glaze A to move it to the right on the stall diagram. So I'm going to add silica, going to type in an amount. I'm going to go for 35, and it put a new dot up on the stall diagram right here. That seems pretty good. Going to retotal this for 100%. Going to round it off. And so now I've got corner B, so I'm going to rename corner A copy. I'm going to name it corner B, and I'm going to save it. So now I've got 3 of the 4 corners made on the diagram. The next one I need to make is corner D down here. And so I can't get to it by copying A or B. I need to copy C. So I'm going to copy glaze C. And then I'm going to add silica to it. I'm going to rename this corner, corner D. Going to add silica to this. Try 35 again. And when I look at the spacing between the 2 dots at the bottom, it doesn't seem as wide as the spacing between A and B. So C and D don't seem as wide. So I'm going to kick the silica up a little bit. Maybe try 45 here. And this seems pretty good. Now it's kicking D over into the region of stall that might not make a glossy glaze. It might be underfired, but we'll see. It's only probably going to end up being 1 glaze over there. So I'm going to make this total 100%, round it off, and then I'm going to save it. And so now jewel tone corner D is in bold. Now if I come back up to my original recipe, I can see that it's got 0.5 cobalt. So I'm going to come down to my glazes, A, B, C, and D, and I'm going to make cobalt carb 0.5. Now I could have chosen any other colorant from the photos. So you can add more than 1 colorant if you like. I'm just doing this because it was in the original recipe. And I like to add the colorant after. And so I'm going to come along and I'm going to indicate that I'm making this colorant an addition by checking the little box next to it in the column that says add. So by doing that, I made it known that this is an addition to the glaze. It's above the 100%. Now when you do that, when you make a change to a glaze after you've saved it, you have to update it. So I'm going to update these 4 corners. Now, if I want to make the grid, what I need to do is come over here to blend, and I'm going to make it a biaxial. I'm going to make it 5 rows, 5 columns, and then the glazes go in order A, B, C, and D. And then right down here it shows you a photograph of what your glaze grid will look like. A1 through A5, E1 through E5. The 4 corners are indicated in black. And all that I have to do to get the recipes for this is press blend. They will then populate the stall diagram here once it's done calculating the recipes. So there they are. The original recipe is very close to D4. Now let's say that you liked one of these glazes on here. Let's say that your favorite was C3. You can scroll down through the list of glazes, looking for C3. Here it is. And I like to leave the number telling me which glaze it is. So I like to leave the C3 as part of the name. So I'm just going to label this glaze C3 favorite. I think I'll just call it favorite jewel. And then I'm going to come down here and click save. So now if I go back to my studio, I will have all the recipes that I saved. Now, I won't have every recipe from the diagram because I didn't save every one of those, but I will have corners A, B, C, D, my original recipe, and I'll have C3, my favorite. So that's the steps for finding the four corners for a biaxial grid. For glaze C, you strip out the silica and most of the alumina, most of the clay. To make glaze A, you add the alumina back in. To make glaze B, you add silica to glaze A. To make glaze D, you add silica to glaze C. So I hope that helps you if you're calculating things at home. Thanks for watching.